1 second and a simple 3-step formula is all it takes for the Instagram algorithm to blow up your content or not.
And 1 second's pretty fast. It's nothing too crazy. It's not like you're standing on top of the tallest building in the world.
So in this video, we'll dig deep into the inner workings of the Instagram algorithm, and I'll show you some practical ways to finally start creating viral content, growing like this account or this one. On the other hand, this account didn't want to listen, even called me names. Yeah, that very sad things happened. If we take a look at successful creators, they all get this one thing right. The hook. Or what I sometimes call autopilot disengage. And believe it or not, it's not just about the first second of a reel or the title of a post, which is really important. We've talked about that before, but it's actually a whole multi-dimensional thing not a lot of people pay attention to. In fact, the actual hook is only the second part of our formula to success, and we'll get to that in a bit. But if you don't nail the first step down, you can have the best hook ever, and it's just not gonna work. Now, we've heard it a million times before, but Instagram themselves always say,
in order to grow, you just gotta make great content.
Easy, right? Why don't you just do that? But dedicating pretty much the past years of my life figuring out how the Instagram algorithms actually work, I think I finally found what they actually mean with that, creating great content in terms of the algorithm. Great content stops people from mindlessly scrolling, and it shifts their attention to said post for as long as possible.
So what does that mean? What does that mean?
Do you ever notice yourself opening your Instagram app seemingly on autopilot without any clear reason or goal, just to fill some time? Well, that's actually how most people consume content nowadays, especially on mobile. They just scroll and hope for the algorithm to give them something they're interested in. And this is where what I call your one true fan comes into play, aka who it actually is you create your content for. And no, it can't be for everybody. In fact, it should ideally be just one single person that you define to the T. What's their name, age, interests? What do they really care about, like on a psychological level? You know, go really deep. What are their fears, motivators? What are their goals? What keeps them up at night? So many people skip out on this very important part, and then they wonder why their Instagram just isn't growing and nobody seems to care about them. Yeah, these fundamentals, which we, by the way, go very deep in my program, the Instagram Black File, which will soon open up again for a limited amount of students. But these things are what actually sets apart getting organic growth like this from, yeah, something different, I guess. Because if you know your audience inside out, you can then speak to them directly in your hook, for example, and disengage their scrolling autopilot, signaling the Instagram algorithm that your post is just a little bit better than the others. You need to be really honest with yourself though, because a lot of the times people think they have great hooks, but they actually don't. And this first split second is actually very, very important. Being just a little bit better than the rest, you know, keeping them just a little bit longer. Doesn't matter whether it's reels, like I said, feed posts, or even stories. For example, lots of regular single picture posts don't have a hook, and that's why the algorithm doesn't recommend them as much as, for example, reels. Because even within Instagram, every post type is competing for attention. So if you have a picture with a one-liner caption and just some hashtags in there, and be honest to yourself, why would people actually stop and look at it for more than a few seconds? Because you can basically consume the whole post while scrolling past it. There's no autopilot disengage in there. So always really try to put yourself into your one true fan's shoes and you know, think about what would pique their curiosity. You know, is it a visual hook in the image itself? Because, you know, your one true fan is somebody who's into visual things. Or can you create an information gap between the picture and the first line above the fold? Does the first second of your reel really make them wonder what comes next, setting up some sort of anticipation? Lots of questions to ask yourself, especially just for 1 second. But if you remember, this whole thing I already just talked about is only 2/3 of the equation, because to get a post to go really viral, there's one step missing. The secondary hook. Yeah, the initial hook is just one part. Very important, but if you want the Instagram algorithm to actually open up its almighty gates for you, you probably heard that you need to keep your audience happy, to keep them watching for as long as possible. And that's exactly what the secondary hook is about. It's to keep them from leaving your post, because a person's brain is always looking for ways to exit out of a post and get the next dopamine hit. And it's actually your job to give it to them just a tad bit before they would usually exit out. With reels, that could be as simple as a few cuts, drumming up some anticipation, or introducing a second storyline. Also, the same applies to regular posts, carousels, or even stories. Yeah, actually the same things the more that I think about it. It is actually the same. Now, why is that? Because that's how humans work. It's basic storytelling psychology. And slowly we're getting full circle, not just finding some hacks and tricks anymore to trick the algorithm, but actually to trick the humans behind it. And almost nobody does this, at least not consciously. So just putting in that little bit of extra effort, trying to craft out your audience's journey by first of all, exactly knowing who this post is for, then crafting a hook that immediately snaps them out of their autopilot based on who they are, to then take them by their hands and give them the next dopamine hit to not exit out. Getting them to stay, for example, 15% longer than on similar posts, you will actually signal the algorithm to open up the floodgates. Bonus points if you manage to get them to consume even more of your content by getting them to snap on your profile picture. But that's for another video. Now, obviously having a strong hook won't help you at all if the secondary hook is weak and it doesn't keep people's attention. And like I said, it basically all comes down to simple storytelling techniques that once implemented will make a big difference to your content. Which is why you should watch this video right here where I'll explain in detail how to make that happen and keep your audience engaged.